You can do them. You just control your mind and you do the task at hand.
That's mind-boggling, Kieran, to me.
But that was a shared human experience, though. Like I could only imagine what it's like to know. And he's known probably for a couple of weeks that he's going to get his leg cut off. He's probably deep down known longer than that. Mm-hmm. But now here is the time and the place, and we're doing this.
Well, you even mentioned this leprosy center and this surgery center in the leprosy center. And you can call it a leprosy center, but it had walls. They had to grow their own food, so they were segregated from the rest of the community. For lack of a better word, this was a modern-day leper colony, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of. But, there was life there. The farm was there. The lepers that could worked on the farm. There was an orphanage there. There was a school there. I would tell you it was more like a compound. But
what I'm getting at is this was not a community where some of the people had leprosy. This was a community that had the people with leprosy.
Yeah, the orphans did not, but the bulk of it did. Yes.
Okay.
And the nun that ran it, if she was born the year she was born into middle class America, she'd probably be a CEO or high level executive at a Fortune 500 company. She was unbelievable.
But gave it all up for this.
She just had those skills, and that was also where she came from, though. She came from southern India and, decided to become a nun, and she had all these skills. She had tremendous leadership skills, tremendous ability to coordinate, tremendous ability to look at life through a very practical vision. Like, this is what I'm doing, and this is what has to happen. And she was amazing. I spent Christmas there, and it was absolutely joyous and beautiful.
But no snow.
No snow. No danger of snow. No.
Now when you were there, November through February, that's the cooler season? Is that the rainy season? The nicer weather season? What is that?
It's winter. It's the cooler season. So it would get into the 60s. It would get into the 50s at night, and the poor people on the street would be bundled up in blankets or whatever they could get, and they would just be saying this one word over and over, which was tunda, 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 which meant cold, because they were so cold, because maybe it was 48 or 55 degrees and, very cold for them.
Yeah, and with everything being relative, when you figure that you don't have a parka, you don't have a coat, you may not have eaten that day, and you're sleeping on concrete, you get cold.
Yeah, you get cold. You get cold, and sometimes our experience of temperature has to deal with our ability to change the temperature, meaning it might be 92 degrees out, which is hot, right?
Right.
Okay. But it doesn't seem that hot if you can wear shorts, a T-shirt, and you have access to a good fan or air conditioning. Right?
Exactly.
But if it's 92 degrees and you've got no shelter from the sun, you got no hat, you got no this, it's going to seem really hot.
Yeah. And that's what these people have.
Yeah. They're facing the elements. They just are.
The patients, the clients, the people that were in Premdan, the leprosy center, the surgery center, were they primarily Hindu? Were they Muslim? Were they a little bit of this, a little bit of that? What was their background? All of the above?
I don't know 100%. I would say chiefly Hindu, but there was no, one common myth is, they're there and they're all getting converted to Christianity and Catholicism, and that's just not true. That never happened.
So while the government was concerned about the religion of people, Mother Teresa's organization was not.
No, she believed you should treat them in the manner which they were. If they've been a Hindu their whole life, they should be treated like a Hindu, and they should be buried in the custom that a Hindu would be buried in.
Yeah, so it didn't really matter. The religion didn't matter to Mother Teresa, but it did matter to the government, though. One more question.
The government wanted records. They just wanted to know who was coming, and I don't know why they wanted to know the religion, but we were required to write it down.
Okay. Because I know that the current Prime Minister Modi is a Hindu, and the Muslims don't like him because they think he's good for the Hindus, but not so much for the Muslims. And I know religion plays a huge part in that country. One more question I have before we wrap this up. Did you ever get an opportunity to meet Mother Teresa?
She died about 4 months before I left.
Oh.
So when I decided to go, she was alive.
Mm-hmm.
She died, I think it was maybe in September. It was right after Princess Diana died.
Okay.
And that was getting hysterical. And then it was like Mother Teresa died, and I think at least caused some people to think about who was really important. Not that Princess Di didn't do great things. I get it. But Mother Teresa was a tour de force. And so I didn't physically meet her, but this is how I met her. So when I decided to go, I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to meet Mother Teresa. I'm going to get my picture taken with her. Maybe I'll even get an autograph.
There you go.
That would be awesome. So she dies. I go. I spend 4 months and change my entire self during that time. The day I'm leaving, this nun that I had done a lot of work with, Sister Maria Nirmala, who was from Ireland, and she liked me. And my mom's from Ireland, so we had that bit of a bond. And she said, Kieran, are you leaving today? And I said, I am. And she had a large manila envelope. And she said, I want you to have this. She said, we're going through some of Mother's things, and there were 2 of these left, and we don't know who it's for, so I'm giving this to you. And I said, thank you. Then I opened the envelope, and it's an 8x10 glossy autographed picture of Mother Teresa.
Wow. Very cool.
So that hangs on my wall today in my home.
Uh-huh.
And even better, when I finally came home, and I traveled after India, I was gone for another 4 or 5 months after that. And I came home, and I hit LAX airport, and they pulled every so many people and would search their bags. And I was one of those people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the guy said, well, what were you doing? And I said, well, spent a lot of time in India, did a lot of volunteer work for Mother Teresa. He looks at me like I've got 3 heads.
Uh-huh.
The first bag he opens was my carry-on bag. And what did I have at the top? That picture framed. And he looked at that, and he looked at me, and he told me, get out of here.
This guy's not a drug smuggling mule.
Exactly. So that, and I could do this show 5 times and talk nothing about that experience. But my words to people are, don't be afraid of doing something that you want to do. Don't be afraid to get uncomfortable because you'll grow. And don't be afraid of your fellow man. They have the exact same struggles that you do. It might be slightly different, but they're essentially the same. And when you reach out and you give of yourself to people that literally have nothing they can give you, you'll actually get so much, because those people couldn't pay me. They couldn't buy me dinner. They couldn't this or this, but they gave me strength. They gave me insight. They taught me tolerance. They taught me patience, and they changed who I am at my core. And so when I came back, I met this lovely woman who I decided I would marry, and she'd be the mother of my children, and we have a beautiful family together. And that wouldn't have happened had I not done this, because she wouldn't have been attracted to the guy who went on that trip. She was attracted to the guy that came back from that experience.
So while you gave of yourself, you certainly got something in return.
I got everything in return.
Kieran, that's a fantastic Easter story. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and your busy schedule to be on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, James, anytime.
And if somebody's got a bunch of money they want to invest with Planning with Kieran, how do they do that?
Give me a call, 314-254-2411, planningwithkieran.com. And they don't have to have a bunch of money, but you got to have a little.
Okay, very good. This is a podcast. You can rewind it.
James.
Get the phone number if you need to. Kieran, thank you again so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
Well, that's it. We're done. Thanks for being on the listen to the podcast today. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. That's the email address. You can go ahead and just go ahead and send me your email address, and I will send you the link to the podcast after it drops. Or you can get the podcast anywhere. Pardon me, anywhere you get podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, or Spreaker.com. That's it. Until next time. I have a frog in my throat. Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.